Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. So I wanted to first say thank you to the, 600 subscribers or so that I picked up in the last couple days. The last couple videos I did on the upcoming Indian Challenger have done pretty well. So thank you guys very much. Welcome to the channel. I really appreciate you coming on board. Let me know what channels you guys watch in the comments down below. I'm interested to know kind of where you guys are coming from as viewers on the channel and what you guys are into, maybe like your favorite couple channels. I'm interested to know. And also as a consumer of YouTube, I always like checking out new content. But again, welcome. I appreciate you guys coming on board. A lot of what I do on this channel is I just pay attention to the comments. The major thing I see is Indian doesn't have the same dealer support that Harley-Davidson does. So I took to the internet and I tried to find just a base, like go to Harley's website and just get a map of all their dealerships. Go to Indian's site, get a map of all their dealerships. Neither one of them really allow you to do that all that easily. You really have to search by your address and then it'll just show you the nearest dealerships to your house, or Indian will break it up state by state, which thank you, Indian, because I was able to go through and just check off basically state by state. Harley was much more difficult. Basically, I was able to take the entire list and then copy that into a spreadsheet and have to go through a whole bunch of work to put it into a format where you can ingest that into a mapping program. This took me quite a bit of time, but that's fine. I enjoyed putting this data together. So one thing I want to make note of is that Harley-Davidson lists 767 dealerships, but they list a whole bunch of them that are marked as this location does not sell or service motorcycles. So I did not map those locations. So I came up with 683 Harley-Davidson dealers that are listed on their website as of the 25th of October 2019. Now, before I get into how many Indian dealerships there are, I ran a poll before I shot this video because, again, this is one of the sticking points. People always say Indian doesn't have nearly enough dealerships. So I wanted to ask people just in general, what do you guys think? How many dealers does Indian have? 14% think 34 dealerships, 28% think 97, 33% think 153, 17% think 184, and 8% think 287. The real answer is 184. And more people really thought that there were closer to 100 than they did 200, which is pretty interesting. So with that being said, I then mapped all these dealerships. Here you can see all of the Indian dealerships, and here you can see all of the Harley-Davidson dealerships. And it even includes Hawaii and Alaska. So interesting, there are no Indian dealerships in Alaska. Sorry, guys. But there is in Hawaii, so that's interesting to know. So right off the bat, one thing that I want to do here is mention that I'm looking at this data not from a if you live in this area, can you get to a dealership quickly to buy a bike? That's not really what I'm looking at. It's important, obviously, that if you can't get to a dealer to buy a bike, you're not going to. It's relevant. But I looked at this more from the angle of guys who would say, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you'll never be able to go get your bike serviced. That's kind of what I hear. So people are looking at this data as a decision-making process for buying a new Harley or a new Indian, and people are using these as a basis of comparison. So I'm not talking about the used market. I'm talking about somebody today who's going to go plop down money maybe on the new Indian Challenger or a Road Glide and are interested to know this information. I based this on somebody having roadside assistance because most people have roadside assistance. If you don't, the average tow, which I looked up here, is about $3.87 per mile. I just lumped that in as that includes the hook cost and everything that they tend to charge you, like the call-out fees or whatever, assuming that a tow is going to be 100-plus miles, basically. It's $3.87 a mile. Regardless of if you are an Indian owner or a Harley owner, if you don't have roadside assistance, I can pretty much guarantee you that $3.87 per mile is going to cost you quite a bit. Get roadside assistance. So the Harley-Davidson Hog memberships that include roadside assistance basically cost either $29 a year or $49 a year. For $29 a year, you get roadside assistance, but to the best of my knowledge, it only includes $100 worth of service. Basically, think about it that they're going to include and pay for basically what it costs for the tow truck to show up. That's going to eat up your $100, and then your mileage from there is going to be out of pocket. Now, for $49 a year, they will basically tow your bike to the nearest repair facility. There's a bunch of these different plans that exist. For me, roadside assistance is included in my Geico coverage, which costs me $17 a year on my policy, and they will cover me to the nearest repair facility, which would be an authorized dealer. I kind of chalk this up now to say, if you have the appropriate roadside assistance, which you should, especially if you're going to be taking off on these long touring jaunts, it's smart to have it. So for me, I looked at this more, looking at the map. If you were to go on a long road trip, how far would you really have to go out of your way to get to an Indian dealership? That was kind of the way that I viewed this exercise. Now, this map is not, I'm not claiming that I hit it 100% accurate, but I'm saying that I'm pretty confident that I'm pretty close here. I did look anywhere where you see large gaps in the country here. I did go back and double check to make sure I wasn't missing an Indian dealer somewhere. I will link in the description down below to this map so you guys can check it out all you want and see where these dealerships fall. So recently I went from Arizona, and let's just say we're looking at Indian dealerships specifically, but I'll pop the Harley dealerships back up. So going from Arizona all the way over to Paris, Texas, which is Paris, Texas over here. So this is where I went. So right away you'd say, okay, if you were in Paris, Texas, you had a long shot to a dealership. Really, it was only 70 miles. If something were to go wrong on my Indian and I had to get a tow 70 miles, it's an hour away. Is it going to suck? Yeah. Is it a big deal? If something were to happen where I broke down in Elk City, well, they would have towed me over to Oklahoma City, which was 100 miles away anyways, and my nearest Harley dealership would have been about the same distance anyhow. So this is where when I start to look at this map, I don't see a huge deal. There are some holes in the country that are important to look at. Sure, if I was on 40, this is where the Harley dealership network comes into play. If something were to go wrong on that trip, I have a dealership from Albuquerque. There's still quite a bit of distance here, and I'm telling you, between Albuquerque and Amarillo is a whole lot of nothing. You have some options here that Harley absolutely fills in the gap. But would it be something that I would look at on a trip like this? If I was tomorrow saying, would I buy an Indian, and I was planning on taking trips back east, I don't think I would say, well, there's not enough dealers to support me from a breakdown aspect of warranty work or something along those lines. Now, are parts going to be available at those dealerships? That's a whole nother debate. A lot of guys are going to say, well, you can't get Indian parts. They've had issues with sourcing parts previously, which is true. My local dealership actually mentioned that about the Chieftains, that they had some issues with some of the supply chain. That's all part of them being a newer outfit. But, Polaris is working a lot of that stuff out, and I can pretty much tell you that with the dealers they have here and where they're headed, that a lot of those pains are just growing pains that will go away. There's also no guarantee that if you want to unboard a 2020 Street Glide tomorrow with the RDRS, and then you got down the road on the same trip that I just took, you got into Tucumari and something crapped out and the bike just wouldn't turn over anymore, whatever the case may be, you take it to the dealership and they say, oh, there's a problem with the RDRS. That part's on back order. It's a brand new thing. It can happen to really any brand. So I also take that with a grain of salt. So what's interesting to me, though, and now you start looking at this map and you say, well, they've got the East Coast pretty much covered until you get up into way far up in the Northeast, Vermont and Maine. It's clear that Indian is kind of cherry-picking motorcycle riding weather places. That's why they don't have a place up in Alaska, I presume. They also don't have a place up in Vermont and Maine. I'm guessing that this is also why they thin out as they get up more into the Northwest, that they might just be looking at this saying, we're not trying to sell seasonal bikes. We're trying to sell bikes to people who ride more year-round. And then, of course, you get more into the Northeast here with Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania. Heavy population centers, they're pretty much going to have dealerships all through that area. If you're going to tell me basically anywhere, I guess, east of the Mississippi that you are not confident in how many dealerships they have, I don't know. I don't even get it. Even like I could see somebody in I don't know, Savannah saying, oh, I don't have a dealership nearby. Well, if you shoot over to Charleston, it's 90 miles away. Somebody in Macon, Georgia. Yeah, you have a Harley dealership right there. Are you going to want to make the trip 70, 80 miles up into Atlanta when you can just go over to the Harley dealership? Probably not. So Indian's going to lose those sales because of that type of gaps that you see out in the map that way. When you get into Montana, up into this northwest area, Harley-Davidson's going to reign supreme because they just have way more dealerships in that area. Now, if you live in LA and you complain about Indian dealerships not being able to service you, or anywhere in California, I mean, how many choices of dealerships do you need to have? You look at Harley-Davidson, and I look at this and say, how many Harley dealerships do you need to have in one area? I just, to me, it's oversaturated. I say the same thing about Phoenix. Phoenix, here, you know, I got 4 choices for an Indian dealership. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 choices for Harley-Davidsons. I mean, if you get rid of a couple of these, I mean, so you live in Southwest Chandler, you can't drive 22 miles to go up to Scottsdale. It just, to me, seems like a lot of oversaturation. So a lot of this 683 dealerships that you see from Harley-Davidson, a lot of them are kind of what I would consider to be like duplicates that, I mean, how many Harley dealerships do you need between Orlando and Tampa? This drive itself is... it's 80 miles. I went on vacation in Orlando for a week and a half, and I drove back and forth to Tampa, I think 3 different times. I mean, you can basically clear across Florida in a quick early afternoon. So this Harley-Davidson saturation, again, you see 683 dealerships, but how many do you need? Looking at this and seeing that Adam Sandoval went to every Harley dealership in the country, holy crap, man. Like, I never in a million years would have, I mean, I knew that was a tough task. I'm not saying I thought it was easy, but good God, that is insane. I do understand that what people say is very valid, especially when you get up into this Northwest territory. If I was Indian, I would 100% look at this map that I put together. I'm sure they already have this data, but I would think they should be popping a dealership somewhere over in like Billings, Montana. I do see there's some big gaps here in Nebraska, South Dakota. So it's pretty interesting to see that, really, if Indian were to strategically place maybe another 15 dealerships, get up to 200, that I think they would have the country really filled in pretty decently and be able to service like the entire country. It seems like Indian's kind of heading in that direction. Seems like it's a pretty smart direction. So I have no idea what they're doing. Again, I'm linking this map in the description down below. Feel free to take a look at it. I am not claiming this to be 100% accurate. And let me know if I'm wrong, because this is the data I pulled. You're more than welcome to do it yourself and see what you can find. Look around your area. It's interesting. It's interesting data. So whether this map ever gets looked at by anybody, I have no idea. But so with that being said, guys, again, I just wanted to jump on here before the release of the Challenger came out. Thank you guys very much. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. And I will see you guys next time.